Hello.
This day next week, lads. This day next week, isn't it?
Thursday, yeah. The team is announced. Oh, we're live. Jesus Christ! I just saw 50 seconds. 50. Jeez, I didn't use it. Folks, a very
just
warm.
got the readers off just before it was grand.
I can't keep them on because the bloody glare. You know all this anyway. Folks, it's Thursday. It's just gone 8:30, and this is your weekly dose of Mauls, balls, and all. Joining me are the regular crew. Zakaya is supposed to be joining us. I just sent her a reminder message there. Maybe she'll jump on in a couple of minutes or a couple of seconds, hopefully. But joining me in the meantime are the usual faces, the backroom crew that you see in print, but and also you see weekly on here with me. We have Matt Boland. We have Peter Martin. Well, we had Peter Martin. We just lost him. And I'm sure he'll be back on. He'll just click the reconnect. Exit stage, exactly. Yes, he'll just click the reconnect button. And we also have Dara Weston at home with the dog, all alone. Hold on.
Don't be saying that. Burglars could be listening.
Yeah, I'm sure you've loads of stuff to. Yeah, right, Grant. Dara Weston has a vicious guard dog in the house with him. So
I do.
Just in case. There you go. And also we have Peter Martin, who we temporarily lost there, but he is thankfully back with us. And as I said, we are waiting on Zakaya to join us. Hopefully she hasn't fallen asleep. And also Claire Devaney might pop on board too. Okay, gentlemen, how the hell are you? Are you all well in yourselves? Need I ask?
Super. Amazing.
Ticking along. Another week over.
Brilliant. Okay.
Same shit, different day.
Okay, gentlemen, let's crack on. I was looking at this there today. I saw the EPCR releasing figures. Peter Martin, what the hell are you doing? Did you fall over?
I'm just trying to get comfortable here. That's better.
Aha.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Oh,
gentlemen, drum roll. That is supposed to be Zakaya.
Yes.
But we can't see Zakaya.
We can hear you.
Logo.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, but we can't see
you.
I'm just trying to work out what's happening there.
I don't know.
That looks like an
Eurovision-esque problems.
Is there two cameras, maybe an external camera and a built-in camera? Because I can see the Apple logo on the back of the laptop.
Yay! There you go. And now, better slightly late than never. Making her welcome return to us is New Zealand and Crusaders' biggest fan, Zakaya. Now, go on, say your surname because I always butcher it.
Svitanovic. Really easy.
Svitanovic.
What? Say that again. What?
Svitanovic. It's got a little bit of a lilt in there.
All right, and that is right.
You speak with a lilt with everything you say, so you should be able to get that.
How are you doing, Zakaya? Great to see you again.
Yes, and you guys. Well, look, I've just come back from Dublin. Actually, I was in Dublin for 4 days for a conference for work, and oh my goodness, it was just brilliant weather. The campus I was at University College, and the campus is beautiful. So I came back to my campus in the middle of the desert. So I was missing the trees and the greenery. But I had
So
you were at or Trinity, Zakaya?
University UCD.
UCD. Oh yeah, that's nice.
And it's such a beautiful part of the city.
Yes. Yeah, well, yeah, it is. Leinster Rugby are located near there as well, so it's even better. Yeah.
Oh, if only I'd known, I would have gone and visited Geordie.
All right, so are you back in Abu Dhabi, Zakaya?
Yes, I am now. Yeah.
So you can't curse. No.
Well, I can because I'm in my house. So what you do, I think, in your own place, you've got a little bit more freedom. But generally, I don't. It's usually
generally you don't. Yes, because you are a lady. Now,
I'm a lady.
Here we go.
We're all very respectful members of the panel here.
Fuck that shit, Jesus Christ. Now, Zakaya, I'm glad you're on because I just said to the lads before I was about to go into something. I said, Zakaya isn't on yet, and she's going to wreck my first question. But I'm glad you're here, right? Now, what I wanted to ask you was about this the New Zealand players coming over to Leinster. Obviously, I'm talking about Barrett and Ione later. How is that perceived in New Zealand? I know you're not in New Zealand, but obviously you would have close ties to it. Is it perceived positively? Do they care? Is it a good move? And what do you think yourself?
Well, first of all, I think, let's face it, this is a way for NZR to keep our players in New Zealand. So it's because they can only select for All Black selection, you have to be in New Zealand. So, and I mean, players, they no doubt they get bored of doing the same thing, season in, season out. So this is a sabbatical that Geordie is on, and a sabbatical that Rico will be going on next time. So generally speaking, it's the sort of the top tier players that get the sabbaticals as part of their contracts. But it's a way to keep them happy, give them something different to do while keeping them contracted to NZR, so keeping them available for the All Blacks. Now, generally speaking, most of our players go to Japan for their sabbaticals. So when we first heard that Geordie was going to Leinster, I mean, I know for me, I was like, oh, sweet, that's great, something different. And also, I mean, even though the Japan League One is always improving, it's not at the same level as the URC, is it? I mean, it's just not quite there yet. It is getting better. However, the changes that that's being brought in, they've got to have. I think they're going to make it so they've got to have 8 Japanese players in each team. So they're going to bring that quota system in. Whether that affects the quality that they've built up at this stage, I'm not sure. So I know that for all of us, we just thought it was great. We just thought it was nice for Geordie to do something that was different. Also, I mean, he's got Irish heritage, so it kind of made sense for him to go to Ireland and ply his trade. I think when the family did the farm swap, when Bowden and that were kids, I think Geordie was very, very little then. So I don't know, how much he got out of that experience as opposed to Kane and Bowden. So this was seen very positively, I think, in all aspects. And I remember making a comment myself. I bet he'll be the first of many that do this as opposed to going to Japan.
And why is that, Zakaya? Why? Is from I get from what you're saying is that the NZR would prefer if their players came to Europe rather than going to Japan. Is there truth in that? Or?
I don't know if NZR prefer them to come way over this, because it's a long way to come, isn't it? Generally speaking, Japan was always thought to be a good place for them because they're closer to home. I think NZR probably can sort of keep it, or the I shouldn't say NZR. I should say that the coaches can keep a better eye on what they're doing. It's an easier trip from Christchurch or from Auckland to Tokyo than it is to Dublin.
Sure.
So there's all that kind of thing. Also, some of our players that had gone into the top 14, they talked about the obviously top 14 it's an incredibly good tournament, isn't it? Hugely impressive, but I think there's a lot of rugby played, isn't there? So
you're talking about the French, Zakaya. Sorry, the French, yeah.
They work the non-French players like workhorses, basically.
Yeah. So I think for us, there was a lot of, we would rather them going to Japan and so that they would come back in a better, not absolutely needing a rest type of thing. So I think that Japan was always seen as just, it's closer to home. It's just, a little bit maybe, easier to control as opposed to them going somewhere like France. But with the URC, I mean, because with you having the South African teams in there, you know, we're used to the South African teams. We, you know the way they play and all the rest of it. We miss the South African. Well, I know I miss the South African teams because they bring a different level of intensity, don't they? We would just run ourselves ragged. We like fast running rugby, whereas the South Africans, it's really intense, really high physicality rugby, isn't it? So just getting Geordie experiencing that side of things again, I think is hugely beneficial. It's going to benefit him as a player, and of course he's going to bring all of everything that he's been learning while he's with Leinster. He's going to be bringing that back to New Zealand. So you know, it's a win-win as far as I'm concerned.
And plus, sorry, go on, Matt.
It's also a win-win for our guys because, like, you got the likes of Geordie Barrett, who's got like an unbelievable talent that he plays with in New Zealand, and the team that he plays with. He's bringing that information and all that quality into the Leinster setup as well. So the guys in Leinster are learning lots from him as well.
Absolutely,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely, yeah.
And look, again, it's also a massive compliment to what's going on in rugby in Ireland, because if you've got the likes of Geordie Barrett and Rico Ioane wanting to go play in Leinster, like, we're obviously doing something right here.
Yes,
Well, he's hardly not going to want to go to Munster, for Christ's sake. You know what I mean?
No, but
he
you know
wants,
what I mean.
he wants to win. He wants to win something.
But the fact that he's going to Ireland, I mean, Pete, you know, for fuck's sake, have a bit of fucking diplomacy.
When you mention Munster there, I mean, we all remember Dougie Howlett going. So it's great to have current All Blacks rather than kind of the retirement tour.
yeah,
Because I think when Dougie came to Munster, it was more, and I don't know, I used to perceive Japanese rugby as being more the kind of retirement for the Anzac players.
yeah,
You know, like it was where you went to make your big money in the last couple of years of your career.
absolutely.
You'd be playing for the Panasonic factory team or something like that, you know, but it's like you get paid ridiculous amounts of money. But
That's
it's great to
absolutely-
see current All Blacks now coming and actually choosing to play, you know, in European competition with us, especially.
Mm. Well, I think also in Dougie Howlett's day, that's way before the sabbaticals came in. I mean, the first guys to get the sabbaticals were Richie McCaw and DC. So Richie McCaw, and correct me if I'm wrong, but he chose his sabbatical as a time to actually escape rugby, and he decided to travel and, you know, and actually go and see some places around the world that without rugby being the first and foremost thing to take him there. Whereas DC, I can't remember where DC went, but he did actually go somewhere to play rugby. Yeah.
Well, if you were,
Sorry.
It was in France who played.
Yeah, wasn't it? Dan, he was there when Sexton was there as well on his sabbatical.
Yeah.
oh, he went to wrestling. Yeah. But
No,
then,
wrestling.
if you remember, Zakiah, Christian Cullen went to Munster, one of the best fullbacks, I think he was for New Zealand. But he didn't really. I think he got injured. He didn't really. I think he was at the tail end of his career. Didn't really work out for him. So it's, you know, it's hit and miss with some players, I suppose.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think because Beaver went somewhere in England, didn't he? Did he go to somewhere in England or Wales? And it didn't really work out. I don't think it was as successful. I mean, Geordie's has just been hugely successful, hasn't
Brilliant.
it?
Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
More so than I think than a lot of the stuff we get from Japan League One as well. I mean, you know, whether it's because it's on our feed more because it is Leinster and, you know, and because it is something new. But I mean, it's just been fabulous to see him, you know, to see him playing so well. And I think, and he'll be getting so much out of that, especially if he's watching Super Rugby and seeing how the Hurricanes are doing.
How are I know nothing, so excuse my ignorance, Zakiah, but before we move on, how are the Crusaders doing, your team?
Oh my God! After last season, where we could basically, you know, beat no one, and I think if we weren't at the very bottom of the table, we were certainly down there. It's just been a complete turnaround. It's almost back to the Razor days, you know. They're doing really, really well. So they're second on the table at the moment behind the Chiefs. But I think I think they're on the same. Are they on the same points as the Chief, or just one less? I can't remember. But it's just night and day compared to last season. Because of course, being a Crusaders supporter, last season was really hard because we'd won 7 on the trot, and then all of a sudden we couldn't win anything. And of course, nobody showed me any sympathy when I just came out and said, "Oh my God, did you see the game?" Oh, yeah,
I knew I shouldn't have asked you about the Crusaders because you'll just keep going on and on. And I knew, yeah.
Just a quick one there, right?
Sakaya, I just wanted to ask you a question. Just in relation to Rob Penny, because it didn't work. Like, you know, Rob Penny was coaching Munster, and it didn't work out at all. And it looked like it was going to be another disaster with the Crusaders. Was it a question? Was there a doubt over Penny being effectively like a spoof or like an absolute fake as a coach, or was it a case that he managed to turn it around by just pure force of will, by just sticking to his methods, or was there a light bulb moment where he just said, "You know what, what I've done so far coaching wise is not working. I need to try something different," and therefore you got back on track with him? What was it? You know.
So I think there's a little bit of that because Brad Moore came back. You know, he'd been with the All Blacks when Fozzie was in charge, and him and Plumtree got unceremoniously turfed out, and well, he's back with Canterbury, so with the Crusaders. So I think that's been an added bonus because obviously last year there was something wrong with the culture. It just wasn't there, you know, they just weren't the team that we recognised. And of course, with Razor being so, I mean, he was such a popular coach with the boys as well. You know, they obviously respected him so much, and half the time they were playing for him, not just playing for the jersey, they were playing for the coach. And I think that he left such a huge gaping hole. It would have been hard for anybody to go in, but there was certainly, I mean, you know, on the on Facebook and all the rest of it, people were calling for you know, Rob's not retirement, what's the word, being kicked out, being booted. And I'm glad they didn't, because he's you know, he's really turned it around, and he seems to be happier in the job as well. But I mean, when things weren't going our way, people were certainly mentioning his time with Leinster and his time with the Australian franchise as well, which didn't go very, very well. So I remember being worried, but thinking, well, we owe him more than one season, you know.
Yeah. Okay. Before we, thanks, Sakaya, and everyone else.
There. Sorry, Pete,
go on.
For Sakaya. I'm glad you mentioned Beaver, because he's made recent headlines there recently, and I just wanted to get your thoughts on what you thought of his comments for the URC being a really low level to Super Rugby.
Oh, look, I think it was okay, I am going to swear. I think it was a bloody stupid thing to say. I mean, I just...
Did you swear yet?
It's one of those things. On a lot of the forums, you know, there's always the no, our competition's better, no, ours is better, no, my team's better, yours is all this kind of stuff. And I just don't particularly like that type of frame of mind anyway. I think every competition has its strengths. Every competition has its weaknesses. Now, I believe that we like the competitions we like because our teams are involved with them. I mean, I like Super Rugby because I want to watch the Crusaders play. So if I'm going to watch a competition where there's no Crusaders, obviously my level of enjoyment is going to go down a few pegs, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, but I don't think that means that just because I like Super Rugby, and I do like Super Rugby, I like that it's fast. I like that it, you know, there's a lot of tries being scored, and it does have defence, despite what some people think. There are some those digs, but I mean, you know, most of my enjoyment is seeing how my team is going. That doesn't mean I don't like watching the URC as well. I mean, I do like watching. There's been some marvellous games, you know, and there's been some really boring games in Super Rugby, just like there's boring games in every competition. It's just,
You get it in the Six Nations, you get it in the Heineken Cup, you get it in the World Cup. It always happens. It's sport.
Absolutely. So I thought what he said was ridiculous. I think I think he could have, he could have phrased it so many ways that could have been so much better. But let's face it, a lot of it's about clickbait these days, isn't it? And it certainly created that, didn't it? Across the board.
It did. Okay, now before we move on, just a couple of comments there. Angelisa, hi everyone, panel and chat. Hello, Angelisa, how are you? Joe Lyons, our old pal Joe Lyons. Is Joe on a rant here? He's normally on a rant at some stage.
He's always on a rant.
He's always, but yeah, Joe the ranter. Heading to Europe if they get CR games, I think, and the big league games is a massive plus as they are competitive games against top tier players and teams. Heading to Japan is a bit of a holiday camp. Ooh, I don't know. I'd say Zakaya might disagree with you on that. And the level is not as competitive. Also, the officiating of the games leaves a bit to be desired. Some laws are less stringent if it makes for more entertaining play. There's an element of truth in that, Joe. Angelisa, hello, Pistol Pete. There's someone saying hello to you. Angelisa, is this channel that interacts with their panel or no? I'm guessing not. Hello, would you give us a bloody chance?
It does interact, Angelisa, so yeah.
Yeah, all right, yeah. Just calm yourself there now. Hold on, let me just see. Sorry, live stream. Joe Shep.
At Joe's comment, I think definitely back in the day it was like a holiday, wasn't it? A holiday where they got paid very, very well in Japan.
Yes.
I don't think that's the case now. You've got so many of the Springboks playing there. You get that level of players, everything's going to go up, isn't it? And I think Japan Rugby has really put a lot of focus into making that league, League One, into a bona fide league that stands up against other tournaments or other competitions in the world. I don't think it's quite there yet, but I think it's well on the way of getting there.
Yeah,
just get rid of Eddie Jones again.
Oh, sorry, Zakaya. I meant to ask you because you highlighted it when you came on. What's the jersey you're wearing? Is that a Crusaders jersey?
Yes, it's the new one. I went home for a week. God, can you imagine a 17-hour flight and got just there for 7 days? And so I actually went in and got one.
Well, good for you. Okay, live stream solutions. Joe Shep, the Bell Joe Shep, good man. Would you ask SR to the French top 14 in the style of play, faster, lots of tries, as opposed to URC and English Premiership? What's the
different?
Yeah.
No, I don't know if I would compare it to the top 14. I think the top 14 almost, it's almost the pinnacle, isn't it?
Well, it is. The only thing, and we've said this before, and Peter Martin, you said it, and Darius, you've said it, Matt, we've all said it. The Premiership in England is probably one of the worst leagues there is. If you put them all into a basket and picked out, at the moment, yes.
Because we've got some really good teams in there. Because even Saracens have been struggling lately, haven't they?
Yeah. Harlequins. We're playing Northampton Saints on Saturday. Leinster are. We shall see how that goes. Although Northampton Saints are not a bad bloody team. Okay.
Don't jinx it.
Okay, hold on. Sorry, gents and ladies. Bevan Marie, hello, Bevan, how are you? I wonder how Geordie managed to adapt to rules, as aren't some of them different in New Zealand? I don't know. Is that right?
They do trial some of the new laws in the Southern Hemisphere.
Yeah.
But I'd say the major thing probably, Zakaya, that the likes of Geordie coming up and Rico coming up to the Northern Hemisphere is that you can get different levels of refereeing. And you can get caught out then when you go on your tour, and you're playing home nations or whatever, because you're kind of caught. You're used to being refereed in your club games in a certain way, and in the Southern Hemisphere tournaments in a certain way, and then you come up to the Northern Hemisphere in the summer or the spring for our autumn internationals, and suddenly you have the refs kind of slightly differently interpreting the way the laws.
And that's absolutely the truth, isn't it? I mean, there is a difference in the way that Northern Hemisphere refs officiate as opposed to Southern Hemisphere refs. There shouldn't be, but there is. And of course, that always comes home to roost during the World Cup, doesn't it?
Yes.
However, these are professionals, and they're, you know, contracted to professional organizations. Now, you don't, you know, like if it's Ireland playing or the All Blacks playing, they don't go into a game without knowing what the refs like. They do their homework on refs and all the rest of it. So even though there are differences, and we do seem to be like the guinea pigs for a lot of trials and all the rest of it. But I would think that, you know, if they're doing their homework, it shouldn't really matter at the end of the day.
Now, hold on. Every time, not every time, but a lot of the time, when there is a Southern Hemisphere referee, say for a Six Nations game, for example, the criticism aimed at the Southern Hemisphere referees, and look, it's not me saying it, I'm just reiterating what has been said, is that they referee the scrums and the breakdowns way differently to a European or Northern Hemisphere ref. Would you agree with that, Sakaya, or is that an unfair criticism?
Look, I do, because in the Southern Hemisphere, we talk about how pedantic that the Northern Hemisphere refs are. We would think that our refs, you know, like let things flow a lot more, whereas, you know, there's a lot more whistle blowing if it's a Northern Hemisphere ref. And I think sometimes it's very easy, isn't it, to say Northern Hemisphere refs versus Southern Hemisphere refs. I mean, it's a ref's choice, isn't it? So, you know, we probably shouldn't be couching them in terms of you know, hemispheric differences, you know, because it's individuals, their styles. But yeah, I do. I mean, personally, I mean, this is going to sound awful. You know, there's some refs when you know that this particular ref is going to be reffing your game, you think, oh my God, to be
Angus Gardner. Go on, you might as well say it. Angus Gardner.
Oh, I like Gus. I think he's a really good communicator. I think
that's about it.
That's another thing I love now, you know, with the refs being mic'd and everything, and you can hear their communication. And I think that in rugby, we're very, very lucky because those refs are good communicators and they do explain things really well to the players, don't they?
Okay. Yeah. No, that's
and vice versa. Richie McCaw used to be great at explaining the laws to the refs as well.
Well, was it? I can't remember. Was it Nigel Owens that said that, you know, Richie almost knew the laws better than half the refs that were officiating. He knew them inside out. So yeah.
And you know the famous joke, Zakaya, about Richie McCaw when he retired. It's an old one. It's a very old one. I'm surprised you haven't heard it. He became a helicopter pilot
because he could enter sideways.
There you go. That's it. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
There's not a sideways joke or a sheep joke I haven't heard. So.
All right. There you go. Okay. Now, Jesus Christ, nearly half an hour talking about the first point. Joe Lyons, he says he's not going to rant, but good man, Joe. But trying to compare SR to top 14 is mental. The weather conditions, the pitches, the style of play, the competitive away home games in the top 14. That's crazy. All in all, two completely different leagues, both the clear standard bearers. Okay. Oh, sorry, one more from Joe. Jeez, Joe's on the ball tonight. It was the only time he was ever on the right side when talking to him. Go on, Joe. Well done. Okay, okay. Moving on from that. Matt Boland. This is one thing. I was reading this. The EPCR came out today and said that they tripled their sponsorship revenues. Yet they are struggling to fill the Aviva, half of it, for this Saturday's semi-final for Leinster. It's black and white here, really, with the EPCR. With EPCR, one hand they're saying, "Yeah, we're record revenues." It's like Donald Trump, the best revenues you've ever seen, and yet they can't. Struggling to sell 30,000 tickets for the semi-final. What do you put that down to, Matt? Or is there? It's probably multifaceted, I would imagine.
So instead of selling 30,000 tickets at 80 quid, they're selling 10,000 tickets at 170 quid. There you go. That's why their revenues are up. They're selling the tickets at a higher price, and they're not filling the stadiums because people don't want to sit up in the top tiers of the Viva Stadium and pay 170 quid. Like them tickets up there are always cheaper than the tickets pitch side. So like the less they charge 120 quid or 110 quid for a premium seat, and then have people sitting up in the tiers for 30 or 40 quid, and they'll fill the fucking stadium. It's not rocket science. We've all talked about this so many times. Ticket pricing is not going to make high ticket pricing will not make fans go and buy a ticket because they can't afford it. They've got all the cost of living is going through the roof. Everything is going up, even tickets. But like, you know, cop on. Like, I mean, reduce the tickets, fill the stadium. You'll still get the same revenue because instead of having 10,000 people buying 5 pints each, you're going to have 30,000 people buying 5 pints each. They'll still get their money back in some way, shape, or form.
It's false economy, isn't it?
Yes.
100%.
Yes. I have no comment on the ticking pricing. I think the IRFU are doing a fantastic job in everything they do.
It's nothing to do with the IRFU. It's the
Or the EPCR and everyone in charge of.
No, you can criticize them because the IPCR or the IRFU are only a shareholder in them, along with the other unions.
Anyway, I think everything's great.
It's been incredibly. Mr. Burke is not being himself. He's being an imposter. He's been politically correct for the benefit of those watching and listening.
Has he
applied? No. Zakaya, I'll explain off air. Dara Weston, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean,
sponsorship revenues have tripled.
Yeah,
but they can't fill.
So that's basically Investec paid them a load more money to take the South African teams into the competition than Heineken were willing to pay them. So that's their sponsorship have gone up, and then they decided. So the last Northampton game was it last year? We had Northampton in Croker.
Yeah.
It was 70 something quid for premium seating, which was like middle tier, you know, kind of sitting outside the corporate box type seating. That's what I paid that time. This time, standard seating, lower level, and I think it was nearly 80 quid, including fees, Ticketmaster fees. So the prices have gone up for Aviva. I mean, I suppose to Matt's point, look, you know, if they charge less for the tickets and they made more in the pints, the problem is though the Aviva get all the. So the ticket money all goes to the EPCR, and then the Aviva / IRFU, or sorry, Aviva / I think it's New Stadium Company, the one they share with the FAI, gets all the income from the points and stuff like that. And as Matt said correctly, you know, being a Leinster fan, the last thing you want to be doing is trekking up and down those steps to the top tier with your points 3 or 4 times during each half. You know, so I mean, it's you know, had to get that joke in there for the Munster supporters.
Good man.
I think they've just kind of lost the run themselves. I mean, I haven't seen what the pricing is in France, if it's the same. But the thing is, the French match, they could have sold it out probably at twice the price because it's Bordeaux versus Toulouse. You know, so it's a very close game. 2 of the top teams in top 14. I think they're both in the top 3 anyway. I'm not sure which order it is exactly. I'm sure it's only a drive or a train for that. The match is on in Lansdowne. I think it kicks off at 5:30.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a bank holiday weekend. So if you have somebody and you're coming from Westmeath or, you know, you're coming from, I don't know where, Wexford or somewhere.
And there's no trains, Dara, don't forget. There's no, now, just in case people don't know, there's no dart service on the day.
Is there not? I actually said that as a joke this morning, that because it's a bank holiday weekend, Iron Road Airn will do engineering works.
Yeah, they are.
Because they always bloody do it on a bank holiday weekend.
Yeah.
They are.
So they're doing it again. For God's sake.
Yeah.
So basically then, so if you know, imagine I saw somebody and they commented and they said, you know, they were going to, they had a big family, in fairness. They were talking about 7 of them in total. So, and it was going to be nearly 500 quid for 2 adults and 5 kids to come up to the match. Now, then, you know, by the time the match is over and you get home, if you're traveling any kind of distance, could be 11 o'clock. So if you were trying to stay as well, it'd be...
Do you want to answer that, and we'll all just listen to the call?
No, sorry, you're right. Listen, I'm not afraid of you. I'm afraid of her. Okay, so I don't want. You heard me talking about Munster, but yeah. So I think, look, it's they just got greedy and priced the tickets too expensively.
Okay, good points made, Matt and Dara. Peter Martin, your thoughts on all this? which some have said, not me, I didn't say it. I think you're doing a great job, EPCR and IRFU. Peter, do you think your thoughts on this? Are the EPCR shooting themselves in the foot, as Dara and Matt have kind of said?
Absolutely, and I would say that if they're talking about their revenues from their sponsorship, I would guess that that's probably in the last calendar year, as what Dara alluded to. Like, you had Croker was packed to the gills. I'd love to see this time next year, are we having the same conversation? Will they be crying because their revenue is down on sponsorship? It's absolute bull. Like, you know what I mean? It's just incredible. It's just like really what they like, and I've already reiterated this. I think this will play into Northampton's hands. I know the game is probably a separate point, but I think if there isn't a decent atmosphere in the Aviva, Northampton are going to come in there. They'll be only too delighted if the place is half empty. It works towards their advantage. I said there's every possibility. I think Leinster could be in real trouble if it's a very tight game and we're not going well, and there's nobody. If Leinster aren't in control of the game and it gets very tight or whatever, they got a few dodgy decisions, referee, I just would be very, very nervous. If there's 2 or 3 points in it, if you can picture it, into the 75th minute, there's 2 points in it. We're ahead by 2 points, and Northampton are getting a bit of momentum, turning the screw, and all of a sudden, whistle goes, it's a penalty.
And do we know how many tickets have gone to Northampton?
It's unthinkable. It's unthinkable stuff, but that's just the point I wanted to make. Forget about our own bias about Leinster, but they need to be basically looking to fill these stadiums, and they can't the current way they're pricing.
Situations, you need the home crowd, don't you, to screw you up?
Absolutely, yeah. Now, hold on, Zakaya, before I ask you for your overall opinion on this, and there's another aspect to the question I want to ask you. Bevan, charging more for Croke Park last year was right, but now it's Lansdowne Road. The tickets should be cheaper than last year. They should, but
and that's the point. It was actually cheaper last year for better tickets in Lansdowne. And just to Matt's point about Northampton, so Leinster got 14,000 allocation with 15,000 season ticket members. And Northampton got the same. So, there's no way Northampton will have sold 14,000 tickets because flying into Dublin on a bank holiday weekend, and trying to get accommodation and stuff, will just be
nuts. Okay, very true, Darius. Zakaya, this, as you were saying, it's a false economy about this whole thing. But your overall thoughts, and the other thing I want to ask you as well, how do the tickets compare? If you were back home in New Zealand going to a test game, say New Zealand against Australia or Ireland or whatever it may be, in how much do those tickets cost?
Look, too much, I would say. That seems to be the. I don't know how many dollars that it costs to go to rugby these days, because I've just been out of the country so long. But I know that there's always complaints about how much it is. Now, the Chiefs just last weekend in Super Rugby. Now, what round was that? That was round 11. The Chiefs actually played the Western Force at Bay Oval in Mount Maunganui. So they weren't playing at the Tron in Hamilton. They went in and took it out into the provinces. And I know on the breakdown this last week, and this is going to cause no traction, they were talking about that, these franchises have to start going out into the province, into the smaller areas, because a lot of those, the big stadia, the Blues, are they ever going to fill Eden Park? I mean, I think the All Blacks have been struggling to fill Eden Park of late. So, the Blues aren't going to do it. And this is the problem with a lot of our main stadia throughout the country. They're not purpose built. So they're not rugby stadiums. They're for all sports. And that just means that they struggle to fill them. And it looks awful, doesn't it, when there's empty seats? Like there was all those jokes that went around, when Wellington had the sevens, the best costume was the yellow seat because there were so many of them visible. So I think that there's there's a real push at the moment in New Zealand to take it to the smaller areas where, okay, the stadium aren't flash, sometimes it's just sheds, but at least you're going to it's going to be full, because also these guys, they don't get to see these players often, so they're going to go out and they're going to support it. And another thing I think that there's been a bit of a change of mind with is bringing back the afternoon matches. Instead of, it's 7 o'clock at night where in winter where it's starting to get really, really cold. A nice match in the sun, it's way more conducive to family entertainment, isn't it? So there's a few things I think that and not just New Zealand. I think there's a few things that are being talked about all over the place. And even on the breakdown, they were talking about the games, for the matches when the British and Irish Lions tour, trying to get some of the afternoon matches back in for that tour as well.
Good point. And also, Zakaya, just and we leave it at this. You're talking about empty stadiums. The South African club teams, you ever watch one of those games? They play in these huge 60, 70, 80,000 seats, and there's about 10 people in the place. And they all work for the teams.
They have a swimming pool. There's more people in the swimming pool drinking cocktails.
Yeah. Hold on. Joe's back, lads. Hold on.
The Wendy Ball World Cup legacy.
Hold on.
Yeah,
Joe's back. Joe's back. Before we move on, Joe Lines. Is this a rant? Yeah, take a big breath. Yes.
This is definitely a rant.
Is this around? Let's see, Joe. Ticket prices at all levels in recent years have gone stupid. It's very short-sighted as trying to promote a game with half-empty stadiums at the latter stages of a competition is not a good look. Totally agree, Joe. Yes, that's what we were just talking about, and what Zakaya said. And not going to exactly get new fans interested. Fill the stadiums at half the price, get an atmosphere, and make it on the peripherals. Drink cloths. What are you going to rub against my cloths for? Cloths, yeah. Give us a dishcloth there, will you? With me?
You never made a typo.
No, that's true. I do all the time. At the end of the day, the real money is in the TV media. Yes, true. So full grounds is an easier sale. Mental and short-sighted. We limiting posts. Okay, how that ends. Mike Sheedy, hi, Mike. It's all about money. They can push it into their own pockets. Greedy, don't care about real rugby fans in Ireland. That is certainly a common thread, but I think the EPCR and the IRFU are doing a great job. Bev, like the Lions v Connacht last weekend, all you could see was empty seats because the few fans that were there were behind the cameras. Yeah, that's
I think Zakaya makes a really important point that matches are being scheduled by the TV channels,
yes,
not by the unions, because the TV channels are saying, right, 7:30. Now 2:30 doesn't work for us because we want to show the Premiership football or whatever. We want to show the cricket. Make the match 7:30 kickoff. That's fine. And even to the point where the ref has to, hold on. Are we back on TV now? Yeah, we are. Okay, we can kick off now.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's a call for the EPCR and any of the tournament governing bodies is that, are you going to prioritize ticket sales or are you going to prioritize TV income? Because it has to be one or the other. If you want more ticket sales, have it in the middle of the day when people can drive over with their whole family, drive back and still be back in time for tea, Or are you going to have it on 7:30 of the evening where people are going to be getting home with kids at 11:30, 12 at night? So
for me, they're always talking about growing the game and all the rest of it. Well, who the hell's going to be interested in a sport where it's only, where you've only got a fraction of the seats being utilised?
And that's the thing. That's the thing. As attendances drop, the TV money will lessen.
Exactly.
Because they'll go, it's not as popular. So it's a vicious cycle.
It is absolutely a vicious cycle, yeah.
Yeah, true. Okay. Kieran Ryan. Where's Kieran? Northampton has great support. Hold on, folks. Something just popped up there. McAfee, bloody thing, get away. Northampton has great support. They'll come to Dublin on Saturday. If this is a close game on Saturday, have a small crowd. Hi, Kieran, by the way. Will work in Northampton's favour. Yes, absolutely, Kieran. That's what Peter was saying about that. If it is a tight game, I agree with you, Kieran. Yes. Okay, Zakaya. Let's move on from that. The Lions, the announcement is this day next week. I'm sure we will talk more about this next week. But before the announcement, give me 3 players you think will be in the test squad, not the overall squad, the test squad that you think will definitely start.
Let me see. I don't quite know how to phrase this without sounding really, really biased. I think definitely Jamison Gibson Park will be in the team. I think he's just looking so good, isn't he, behind the scrum? I think he's probably head and shoulders above other people. Let me see. I'm going to sound so biased. Bundyaki. I mean, God, the guy's just a machine, isn't he? And I mean, he plays with heart. He's just in the moment, all the time. I mean, look at him at the Rugby World Cup.
There is nothing biased about what you're saying at the moment.
You're a lesbian.
No. But Gibson Park, great player. I think everyone would agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Bundy, great player. Plays better for Ireland than he does for Connacht. And our good friend James Grennan, he's a big Connacht man. He'd tell you that.
Yeah. Now, and a third one, and this may not be a popular one, but Maro Itoje. Now when the Lions toured New Zealand, was that 2017? It was the
yes, yeah.
I mean, he was offside a lot. We were joking.
Yes.
It was almost like he wanted to play for us, type of thing. However, I wondered whether a lot of that was coaching, that he was, told that to be that close to the line, type of thing. But I think he's a really good player. I think he's a good leader. He's articulate. He's an intelligent man. I like what he brings. I like what he brings with him. So he would definitely be in the starting for me. Yeah.
No.
So I think that prompts the question then, Zakaya. Why don't you like James Lowe? You picked 2 other born Irish internationals, and you didn't pick Lowe.
And I'll tell you what, James is from Nelson, which is only over the hills from where I'm from in Blenheim.
When you said Gibson Park, and then you said Bundy, I said J Lo.
You thought that was
J Lo was on the way.
We all thought, okay, here comes James Lowe here, and Maro Itoje comes out.
I was going to say James Lowe, but and although he's a very fine player, and he's another player that I think that he's developed so well in Ireland, I think that was a really good career move for him to, when he took up the contract with Leinster, and he's just really grown his game. I think he will. I think he will be in the starting in the 23, definitely.
Right.
I just didn't want to come across as like she's only picking New Zealanders.
You're allowed.
You're allowed. I mean, they're good. You're
well, they've all got Irish passports, so they're Irish now as well.
Exactly.
You're picking players on merit. Okay, Peter Martin, give me 3 players.
But also, I just think Maro Itoje gets a lot of stick for the.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, from me.
He does.
Especially you people. Shame on you. And I think he's a good player. I like him. Yeah.
I was on a show last night about the Lions, and I disagreed with nearly everyone on the panel about Maro Itoje. So just there you go. Peter Martin, your 3 players, your 3 test starters, and if you can, not repeat what Zakaya said. So another 3 from you.
Okay. Well, I think Dan Sheehan at hooker.
Yep.
I think he's streets above, the other contenders there. Like Jamie George is obviously going to be a contender from an English perspective. I don't think the Welsh have anyone as a hooker.
They've won.
Anyway.
Oh, sorry, they've one player.
What? They've one player in general. That's it.
Well, what about Dewey Lake?
Yeah, so
no?
Dewey Lake, he's a big boy, but I just don't think he's no.
All right. Okay.
No.
Okay. Go on. Your choice.
I won't go on about it, but I don't see what the Welsh see in him. I just don't get it. I just don't see it.
Okay.
So Dan Sheehan. I would suggest Caelan Doris and another player at full back. No, maybe not at full back. I would say James Lowe.
Right. So James Lowe, Caelan Doris, and Dan Sheehan. There's your three. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Dara. Any chance you could give us three that haven't been mentioned already? I know it's a tough one.
The brains of the operation, Andrew Porter. I think he's nailed on.
Yeah.
Hugo Keenan. I think hard pressed to find a better fullback than him.
And Blair Kinghorn is injured.
Yeah. I mean, I'm torn between Conan and Van der Fleer.
What about Tom Curry?
I would say Van der Fleer. No, because I'm only keeping Irish players.
No, you don't have to just name Irish players.
No, I do.
All right.
On principle, I'm naming who I want to see in the first 15.
Okay.
On test matches. So, like, I mean, if it just happens, everybody else is named Irish players apart from Zakaya, obviously.
Yeah.
Who brought Maro into the discussions, but we won't hold that against her. And then Pete stole my J Lo. So, I'd say Porter, Keenan, and I don't know, either Conan or Van der Fleer. I honestly don't know which of the two of them.
All right. Okay, great stuff, ladies and gentlemen. Zakaya,
I'm not going to say fly half because obviously I don't want to spark you and you go off on.
No, I don't know. I'm not talking about the fly half position. I don't want to talk about the fly half position. Okay, Zakaya, keeping with the Lions subject, and this is very much an Irish, a Leinster thing here. It looks like, I put a post up earlier, I was slightly exaggerating in the group that there could be 20 Leinster players on the Lions squad. There won't be. There'll be maybe 13, I'd say.
19.
No. But Zakaya, that is not good for a country that has really, we've got 4 provincial teams. You've got, let's say 15 Irish players went. You've only got 2 possibilities from Connacht, which are Bundy and McHanson. You've got none from Ulster, I don't think. And you've got probably 1 from Munster in Tyburn. But the heavily weighted reliance on Leinster is not good for a country like Ireland, with only 4 teams. From the outside looking in, Zakaya, how, is there, I don't know how much you know about the internal workings of the IRFU and all that sort of stuff, that they do a great job. But what do you think, Zakaya, about that and the over-reliance on one team?
Look, I've been reading a lot about it recently because there's been a lot of articles about the difference in money and finances, with that Leinster can afford to pay these overpriced All Blacks to come over, blah blah blah, all this kind of stuff. Again, thinking of it from a Crusaders point of view, because we always got this too, that at one stage the Crusaders made up the majority of the All Blacks as well. It's like in New Zealand, it hasn't been as clear cut as it is with Ireland at the moment, because you'd always have, quite a few Blues players or quite a few Chiefs in there as well. And when I think of, even when the Crusaders were really, really strong, the other New Zealand franchises weren't far behind, so it was probably a little bit more even keel. With Ireland, I guess I don't know enough about it. I mean, from the outside, it does look like Leinster perhaps gets a little bit of favoritism. I don't know if that's true. This is just the way that it looks. But you know, like it's a good club. Players, you know, I don't know whether they're all from that area, the catchment, or whether people go there in order to become part of that environment. And if that's the case, well, you know, then the union has to do something to try to perhaps spread players around and do that. I know in New Zealand that if the All Blacks coach wants to see more of a player in a certain position, the word will get out, and that player might end up going from the Crusaders to the Highlanders or something like that. So there is that, you know, there is that kind of shift if that player isn't getting enough game time. So is that something that happens in Ireland?
It does. It does. And recently, two Leinster players, Michael Milne and who's the other fella that went down to Munster? Michael Milne
Barron,
and Lee Barron. So
Lee Barron.
Lee Barron. It does happen, Zakaya. When like Leinster, the one of the issues is, and Dara and Pete would be well aware of this, Leinster have probably 54, 55 players in their books. Now, you can only have 15 players on the pitch at any one time, right? A squad is 23, but 15 on the pitch. So the squad rotation is massive for Leinster during the URC, and we saw it there against last week against the Scarlets, very much a second, third string team that Leinster sent over. Scarlets beat them, and they beat them well. Uproar amongst Leinster fans, but some people just don't understand how the whole game works. So there is an element of, well, okay, Munster need, at the moment, Munster and Ulster need props, front rows. So this is where all the swapping comes in. Anyway, no, I just wanted to hear your thoughts on that, Zakaya, because I know if I asked Dara and I asked Pete, we discussed all this before on the show. So
another way to look at it, look at the improvement in the Australian franchises in Super Rugby. When they had their 5 teams, you know, I mean, the Brumbies have always done well. They've always been, you know, tough competitors. But the other teams, you know, they struggled. And, I mean, you know, a lot of the times the New Zealand teams were the dominant ones. You look at the top 6 at the moment, 3 Kiwi teams and 3 Aussie teams. Now, because, you know, when the Rebels shut down, those players were dispersed among the other teams, and that really picked everything up. So I think sometimes, you know, it's hard, isn't it? Because, you know, players want to be where they want to be. But by sharing it, I mean, would that be better for Irish rugby if the Irish teams were more competitive? You know, I mean, I guess in New Zealand, everything, the All Blacks, everything stems from the All Blacks. So the team, and I know the from what I've read, the Super Rugby coaches, you know, it really irks them at times because, you know, the All Blacks are saying, you know, they've got to have rest days, they've got to do this, they've got to do that. But everything is about making the All Blacks the best team possible. So, you know, everything comes down from that. So I guess it depends what the philosophy within Irish rugby is.
Well, it's the same here, Zakaya, to an extent that the IRFU bankroll all the provinces, and then they issue central contracts to key players. So they have a lot of say over the Irish teams on, you know, how much rest players get when they come back from international matches. You know, the only thing they don't do to a certain extent is kind of what the example you gave of saying, okay, we want to see more of this player in this position, so switch him to another club next season. Right. Although there was talk, I mean, if we think back to the start of the season, there was talk of Sam Prendergast going to join his brother in Connacht because so that he could get proper game time at number 10, and then he became the dominant 10 in Leinster. Right. You know, so I mean, there was talk
in Ireland, Dara, in Ireland.
Yeah, there was talk of moving between provinces. You know, so
true.
Because we do have a glut, but I mean, it's predominantly because we have nearly 50% of the population. If you exclude Northern Ireland, 50% of the population are in Leinster. Basically.
Yeah, I don't want to go down that road because we covered this.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
Joe's made a really good point in the chat about the popularity of GAA as well. I mean, you know, maybe in some of the smaller provinces that's one of the things that they've got to take into consideration.
Yeah.
Would.
Good point there, Joe. Zakaya has referenced it. I'm not going to read it out, but good man, Joe. Yeah, good point. Kieran Ryan, I think Craig Casey has a chance to be on the line squad. I don't know.
I think Gibson
Kieran.
Park has the stronger chance. I think.
Yeah, but if you're gonna, Joe Lyons, the way Josh van der Fleer has been ignored or cast aside by the media is comical. It was interesting to see Schlackberger mentioning this and saying he was a nailed-on starter. I don't know. Yeah, hold on. Jesus, look, the prodigal son returns just as we're about to finish. Matt, how the hell did you? What did you do?
The baby was sick before we put her to bed.
Oh,
She
right.
got sick and then she just puked
Oh,
all over the cot. So had to
right.
so just got all that sorted. So sorry about that.
No worries. Well, look, you're here for the end
No
anyway. Glad to hear everything's okay. Joe Lyons, great shout on Casey. If not for injury, he'd 100% have been second to JGP. Craig Casey, all right. I don't know.
Peter, you can't end the show without talking about Rico.
No, which I'm not finish it. Well, go on. Go on. You talk about Rico. Go on.
Well, first of all, I mean, I had to laugh when I saw that he was going to be coming over to Leinster. The irony of it. It's a beautiful thing, is it not?
Absolutely.
Oh, with the whole Johnny Sexton
And
thing
the
and all
fact
that.
that Johnny is now going to be Irish kicking coach.
Oh,
So-
yes, I said it. Yeah. I mean, you know, I sort of think that probably went a little bit too far. You know, what goes on tour stays on tour. You know, it probably should have been left there and all the rest of it.
Yes.
But you know, it's made for entertaining viewership, hasn't it? It's made for good clickbait. I'm sure it
And it sold Johnny Sexton. It sold Johnny Sexton more books.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's good all round. I'm really happy for Rico to be going to Leinster because I think that he's been, first of all, I don't think he'll be a centre at Leinster. I think he'll be on the wing.
Yeah.
Where he probably perhaps should be for the All Blacks as well. He's been struggling a little bit for the Blues. He hasn't been playing, you know, the way that we expect him to be playing. So I think just being in a whole new environment is going to do him the world of good.
But you see, Zakaya, when players come to Leinster, we don't break them like Munster do. We encourage them, our S&C coaching staff are far superior, all that sort of stuff. You know. So.
Oh, okay.
No, I think Rico will largely be welcomed by the Leinster fans because he's a top class talent. And look,
Yes.
you know, Johnny's gone, so you know
Oh, look,
we have to build a bridge and get over it.
I don't doubt I'll give him hell to begin with. I have no doubt about that, but it'll be good-natured banter.
There'll be a bit of banter, I'm sure. But the real thing is, like, the Munster fans are hating this because if they give out about Rico, then they're supporting Johnny Sexton, and they don't want to support Johnny Sexton. So it's like
they're stuck in a quandary big time.
so they're in a zero-win situation.
Place, eh?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Right, before we move on, because we're over the hour mark, so I just want to get a few things, one more subject out of the way before we go on to the games coming up next weekend. James Eric Henry McCorkle, the 5th Earl of Ulster, has come on. As an Ulster fan, I get a bit annoyed every time this provincial breakdown of the Irish over this discussion of Lions team. What is Farrell supposed to do? The bottom line is we are Irish or Lions fans. Okay, I don't know why you're annoyed. We're just trying to explore why that is now, Eric. Now, come on. Let me see. Joe Lyons, he has some set on him, but just goes to show the lad has a winning mindset. Let's face it, playing for the Blues, who only wins stuff every 20 years. Ooh, at least he might add to his medals at Leinster, says Joe. Okay, right, quickly, one last topic I just want to briefly go through before we go on to the games coming up at the weekend, semi-finals. Dara Weston, this whole idea of co-captaincy for the Lions, it's only happened 3 times, I think, in the last. Co-captaincy, does co-captaincy work, or is it a load of bollocks?
Just before you even go through it all, no. There is 2 captains on a Lions squad. There's the midweek captain and there's the test captain. That's always been the way. We've seen any time it's happened, be it Leinster or elsewhere, if you have 2 captains on the pitch at the same time, it's a nightmare for the referees because
Yes.
they don't want two people talking to them. We saw when when Leinster had the co-captains, it was an absolute nightmare. So
And
I mean,
Scotland.
And like you have your senior players, so you have your brains trust up in the front rows, and then you have your lads who are worried about their hair and stuff out in the backs and on the wings. And they have their own senior player in each side, and then wherever the captain is, say the captain's a 10, they'll all consult with the captain, but everything has to go through one voice, and that's the captain.
Yes,
you
great.
can't
Okay,
have two captains.
I totally agree with you.
There's enough leaders on the pitch, but there's only one captain.
I totally agree with you. Matt Boland, co-captaincy works. Good idea, bad idea.
One captain only, or midweek captain. That's it for the Lions. But any other team should just have one captain only, one voice for one team.
Excellent, totally agree. Peter Martin.
Yeah, I said this last week when Joe Shepherd was on. I says, you have a leadership group, and then out of that you'll have your Lions captain and then your midweek captain, and that's it. It'll be like probably senior leadership group out of a squad of 30 players who's going to go. It'll be about 5-6 players who'll be in that leadership space.
Okay. All right. Zakaya, before I ask you, Joe Lyons, Dara, you're dead to me. Okay.
The thing is, Joe knows where I live. So.
Zakaya, Zakaya.
Saying, and I think that like if your captain is a forward, it's good to have a vice captain that's a back, just to keep the communication going back there, so that like everybody knows what they're doing, or he can rally them to motivate them or whatever. But no, there has to be one strong voice.
Totally agree. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we will finish on this. Dara Weston, the semi-finals coming up in the Heineken Cup. First up we have Leinster entertaining Northampton Saints in Lansdowne Road. Who is win, losing, or drawing?
I'll be there, and I think Leinster will entertain me very well. I think Leinster will win. It's now. Thing is, you have people who see the last two results where there was zeros on the other side, and they think, Leinster are going to steamroll them. No, it's not. I think max there might be 10 points in it. But yeah, I think Leinster will do it. We have to do it.
If you're going, Dara, I'll be in the Herbert Park, the usual, beforehand. If you fancy a beverage.
Also, I can go further over to the south side out of my way to get to see you. Yeah.
Jeez, I'm just saying.
He always does this, Zakaya. He's like the fucking Queen or something. He tells everybody where he's going to be. And you attend, and you're allowed to buy him a pint, and you can kiss the ring and all this,
To be fair, Peter, I don't think they let Northsiders in there.
Instead of just, saying, I'll meet you at the stadium.
I'll fucking meet you at the stadium. Jesus Christ, fucking God.
Yeah, no, we won't, because you'll be having your prawn sandwiches.
That's great. Enough. Right, say nothing. Peter Martin. Sorry, Dara, I meant to ask you the other one. Bordeaux versus Toulouse. Now, Toulouse have Ramos, Kinghorn, Sarah's buddy, and Mo Vaca are injured. Anyway, so Bordeaux versus Toulouse. Who's winning that?
Do you know? I mean, Bordeaux have some really good players.
They do.
Do you know, just out of bitterness, because I don't want to see Toulouse possibly get another star, I will go Bordeaux. But I think Bordeaux actually do have the beating of them if the stars align.
Yeah, if Bordeaux play consistently through
if we
phases,
get to the final, we'll beat whoever's put in front of us, please God. But I do think Bordeaux could upset the apple cart here.
Okay.
There's too much of a reliance on Dupont, and we saw it during the Six Nations a bit as well, that if he goes off the boil, the rest of the team can go a bit. And I think that's more so at Toulouse, because he really is the talisman there. So,
yeah, true. Okay.
If I was Bordeaux, I'd be finding out where they were staying, and I'd be standing outside with a big ghetto blaster and playing music really loud the night before, so he doesn't get a wink of sleep.
All right. Okay. Matt Boland, to you. Leinster versus Northampton Saints, Matt.
Yeah, look, as Dara has already said, I don't think this is going to be a walk in the park as a lot of people think
No,
because of
no.
the whole quarterfinal and last 16 round where we nilled both the teams. So I think it's literally going to be a very tough game, and I reckon it could be very close at halftime, and then Leinster to edge it maybe by 7 to 10 points at the end.
Ooh, okay. I don't think it'd be that much, but okay. All right, fair enough. Matt, the second one, Bordeaux versus Toulouse. Toulouse with those three key injuries that I mentioned:
Yeah,
Ramos,
so
Kinghorn, and Movaka.
yeah. So if you look back to the quarterfinal, right, they played Toulon, right, and they should have lost that game. They were less than impressive against fucking Toulon, and I think they fucking really scrape past that. And I don't think they're going to beat fucking Bordeaux. I think Bordeaux are going to have to measure, especially now with these extra injuries. I think they're going to struggle.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Sarah. Peter Martin, to you. Leinster entertaining Northampton Saints.
Yeah, I would just agree with what Dara and Matt have said. I think it's going to be a tight game. I don't think Northampton will be nilled. I think it'll be. I'm pretty sure. Like Dowson seems to be a pretty shrewd coach. He'll have something up his sleeve to put the cat amongst the pigeons. But yeah, look, I'd be still hopeful that after a nervous 80 minutes, that we'll be the right side of it and be, a 10-point win. Just get into into that final.
Okay. The second semi-final piece, Bordeaux are playing
Yeah.
Toulouse.
I would totally agree with Dara. I think that Bordeaux will have the measure of Toulouse, and I think the most important thing really is that in those two players who are injured, Kinghorn and Ramos, you've got two kickers. So the question is, who is going to be the kicker for Toulouse in that semi-final against Bordeaux? And like, if the screws get tightened, you need a guy who's a top-level kicker. That's my genuine question. Who is going to take kicks? Is it going to be Dupont? If he's playing, will he kick? Who knows? But like, if it's tight at all, I would be worried. If it becomes a real cup final game where it's not very open and it's quite attritional, and there's plenty of penalties being given away and what have you, and it comes down to kicks, I would say Bordeaux will have that extra bit of stardust, and if they have a good kicker, I think they could just basically just pull away and just do a job on Toulouse.
All right. Okay. Thanks, Pete. Zakaya, last voice on the show, because as always, we're way over time. Your thoughts on this weekend's semi-finals, where we have Leinster first up against Northampton Saints, Zakaya.
I think that Hampton will lead into the first half. Into half time. I think Leinster will get there. Maybe it'll be the difference of a kick, 3 points or something. But I think Leinster will win, but it'll be by very fine margins.
I would agree with you on that. And the second semi-final, Zakaya, Bordeaux are up against Toulouse.
Look, again, I agree with everybody else on the panel. I think Bordeaux, you just look at their team list, and I think that, they're just stronger. On paper, they just look stronger, and I think that, they've got the benefit of having a couple of guys that can kick goals. And we saw from the World Cup final, you need people that can kick goals.
Very good. My only criticism, ladies and gentlemen, and Zakaya, because you were just speaking, Bordeaux tend to play in fits and starts. They'd be great for 5 minutes, then they're shite for the next 5 minutes, then they're great, and then they're back to their shit. So if they can sort that out, I would agree with everyone.
No. We want them to be great for this match and shite for the final.
No, I'm talking about
let them play the way they're playing.
Right. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, that is all we have time for. Thank you so much to all of you for watching, for your comments, for joining in. Apologies, I couldn't get to all of them, but I see them. So thank you. Also, my thanks to Dara Weston, Peter Martin, Matt Boland, and our guest this evening, the ever wonderful Zakaya. Go on, I'm not going to say your surname again.
Spectanovich.
There you go. That's the one. Zakaya, thank you very much. And we will speak with you again very, very soon, Zakaya. It's always a pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, that is it. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and thank you all very, very much for your time. Enjoy.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Right.
Hello.
Thank you.